Okay,
All
we are
right.
good to go. Take it away.
Hello, pop culture life fans, and welcome to an edition of the podcast bros coming at you. We've seen some really good TV shows out there, and we figured it's time to talk about them. One of them is a spin-off of Battle Royale and Hunger Games in the version of financial troubles and eliminating your fellow contestants by death in child games known as Squid Game. So we're going to talk about Squid Game today. We're also going to talk about You. You just had a third season, and that show is basically every 13 teenager's wet dream come true, and stalking your crushes and possibly killing them while working at a bookstore. So those are the two shows we're going to be discussing today. Vince, I know you just finished the third season of You. So before we get there, just an FYI, if you haven't finished either of these shows, probably do not listen and watch this podcast right now because we're going to talk about everything. So major spoilers coming. So Vince, let's hear your initial shock and response to You.
Yeah, so literally finished it at like 7:37 p.m. Eastern time. So about 25 minutes ago. So it is very fresh in my head. I mean, if
All
you've
right.
watched You from the beginning, I think this season was darker. I think it was a little more of like a social narrative than I think the previous two seasons. So my impression, the first two seasons, right, are mostly about Joe and his psychosis, who whatever that psychosis is. Obviously, there's something very wrong with him. He tends to kill people. He
Yeah.
also tends to obsess, like middle school obsessions on women, but with like a
Yep.
violent aspect to it. So this season, my impression was they went a little deeper into all that. Um, I was kind of shaken up by the end of it. I don't know if you felt this, Jake, but like as a married man who is expecting a child, this really like, yeah, I mean, this hits on every possible trigger and like insecurity you can have as a husband and a father or a father to be. And that like it kind of shook me a little bit, like watching this entire thing. My impression was every pitfall of marriage you can possibly have is like jammed into 10 episodes in the season. And then obviously there's the stuff we all love about the show, which is the violence and the obsession and the murder and the like, you know, social media narratives are of course involved and everything like that. The one takeaway I have that I love is that like they do every season, they nail the characters in this season.
Oh
If you've
gosh.
been to California or the LA area, I mean, those people, like, it's just a dead on stereotype. It was the same in New York. I'm not just trying to pick on Californians, but they do such a good job, high class elite socialites to New York or just random, randos in their 20s in New York and now California suburb. They do such a great job of it. It's one of my favorite parts of the entire show. But that was my impression. What did you think?
Typically shows, especially like for comedic humor and relief, they exaggerate like massive hyperbole.
Yeah.
That there really was an exaggeration with pinning like, the uh millennial Gen Z, California organic food and type person who's on Instagram. Like they nailed it. Yeah, the show is great at the character design. You're right. I think, ultimately it's kind of funny because watching this show with my wife, like there is a couple scenes where like I like,
She thinking of that
can
about
can
me?
we
Like,
can we relate to this? Like I don't
yeah,
know if it's
right. Like,
if
are
I
we in
should say
trouble?
we can relate to some of these arguments, but yeah, they did a great job of jam packing, marriage and the struggles of it into the show. But the only element they haven't had in the past really is these monsters as parents.
Yeah,
And as a parent myself, and you're expecting, like you said, like the last episode is like gut wrenching, like just
yeah,
brutal. And what was kind of cool about this, like we were talking about this over dinner the other night, is like Joe, he is like a sociopath. He should be like, he's not there. He shouldn't have empathy, but his character kind of does, like in
yeah,
weird stages. He's a serial killer, but he has, he does have empathy at times. And his son, uh Henry in parentheses 40 reincarnated, he does, like, he starts to kind of build a motivation of, I want to change. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't thought about changing before. And now I have a psychotic wife that I have to control and kind of figure out how to kind of, uh, satisfy her thirst. But like, I want to change. And you see that with glimpses, like the neighbor, whose wife was killed. He's going over there to basically start the framing project of him. And he's like, I can't do it. Like, the guy's too nice. So he starts to change. And even in his like monologues, he's like, I want to change for you. And I want to, be better for you. This is the last evil thing we're going to do. And then it just, he understands that, like, he's just not fit to be a dad right now. Like that,
Right.
I think that's the struggle he had, was like, I want to be a dad. I want to be better than what I had growing up. But like, he just can't. He's so far down the beaten path. Well, I guess for now, but he's so far down that path that, like, he makes that, that awful decision to give up his child as a baby. But that kid's gonna have a pretty good life with those parents. But you feel very sad for him. And I kind of did feel empathetic, even though Love is gone now. Like, I felt bad for her too. Like, I mean, she's a psycho, but like, if you try to look at it from her lens, she's in love with this person who, I'm sure, like many women, question their man's love for them. And or even just a partner, sometimes you have an insecurity about your partner, and every little thing you're like, do they love me? Do they love me as much as they used to? And stuff like
Yep.
that. And she personifies that, so well, I thought, in the season. So, overall, I'm going on a long ramble here, but overall, I thought this season was actually the best of the three. I thought every season was great. I thought maybe season 2 might have been the worst of the three, but this one just had everything. The humor was like on point. The camping, episode, I thought was hilarious, and just like a fantastic representation of like meathead, going hunting, like we're just going to be animals. I thought there was possibly going to be a homosexual orgy at one
Yep.
point. There wasn't,
Yep.
but I wouldn't put it past the show, or even Joe. And that was another part too, where they're like entertaining swinging, and he's like, oh, I don't really have a problem with him and me, like, what?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
um but yeah,
I
overall, I guess we'll start with you. Overall, like, I thought, yeah, fantastic season. The show is amazing. It's like a different type of Dexter. Dexter was, everyone loved that show. Humanizing a serial killer, a passion of stalking. It's like George McFly from Back to the Future, but with like killing his victims. It's I don't know, it's really well done. And Joe is great. I mean, the actor's really good.
yeah.
Um, so, but they always introduce characters that I like, love, and then they leave it. Like 40, I thought was an awesome character last season, and then
They're
he
like
died.
dead immediately. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
and
like
then
Natalie, the neighbor in this season. Um,
yeah,
I liked her character. So this is the other thing about You that kind of throws me for a loop. I like characters that I know I wouldn't like in real life. Like Natalie in real life,
yeah.
I wouldn't like. Like Carrie is a perfect example. Um, shit, what is her name? His wife, the black
Uh,
lady.
oh my God,
Completely drawing a blanks. I want to say Sophie, but it's
it
not.
starts with an S.
Yeah.
What? Let's just see.
Well, anyway,
Yeah, you go
Harry,
for it. I'll
the
find
the
it.
jacked dude who's trying to have sex with Joe several times in that season, he is like the perfect character to me, and I know I would hate his guts if we ever met in real life. Like, that's just not the type of guy I'd want to hang out with. But I also look at this, and a lot of people in pop culture life I know are also into this. I look at this from a
Sherry, by the way,
Sherry,
Sherry
that's right, thank
Conrad,
you.
Sherry
Um,
Carey.
I look at this too from a serial killer profile standpoint,
Oh yeah,
because now we've got two of them, right? Like, they both are people who have killed several people, and they're both polar opposites, which I find fascinating. You
oh
know,
yeah.
Love never commits basically murder one. And what was interesting, and I don't know if they did this intentionally, the one time she tried to actually premeditate a murder, which was Marianne, she couldn't do it. So all
Right.
of
Well,
her,
well,
yeah,
she. I mean, they threw this in, which actually I didn't. This was the one part I didn't like about the show, tying in her previous marriage as like
yeah,
I liked that she meeting Joe, her killings became about him. Like,
yes,
her getting in the way of her love for him and protecting their marriage and their life.
Yeah.
That's what her killings became. And then they added in this wrinkle of like she tried to paralyze her first husband and wound up killing him. Like I was like, come
I
on.
didn't
Like,
like that whole thing in the last
yeah,
episode with the whole paralysis plant or whatever. And there's an anecdote, and like Joe had figured it out. A pet peeve of mine in general with mystery type stuff is when they show a scene that wasn't there and you had no way of knowing it was going to happen, and they add that to the plot,
right.
which they did here with him, like having the pills at the table. Like we didn't see that. There was no way we knew anything about that
Yeah.
plot. They just threw it in. That was kind of cheap to me. But love has a problem with love. Like
Yeah.
that's her trigger. And all of her kills are basically impulsive. Like she feels like she has to do it in the moment and she can't really control that. Whereas Joe is the complete
Correct.
opposite. He's a long game guy. He
Yep.
is a stalker. If you look at other serial killer traits, he has the whole inappropriate masturbation thing going, which I crack
Yeah.
up, watch it, like the way he just loves masturbating in public. Like that part to me is very per his profile. And yeah, they're very opposite in that regard, but they both kind of come together to kill, like a weird like Mr. and Mrs. Smith type thing.
Oh yeah, like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Bonnie and Clyde. That's where I was, and that's where I became disappointed at the end of the season. I was like, I kind of like the couple killing thing. I was like, that's
I thought
it's
he
a
was going
nice
to embrace it
twist.
again.
Yeah.
I thought next season was going to be them just straight up like killing people and
Yeah.
like covering for each other.
Right.
And it didn't go that route, obviously. Here's one thing about the last episode too, I'm a little confused about. So he chops off 2 of his toes. And at first I'm like, okay, he's doing it because there has to be DNA in the house, right? Because he's staging his own death.
Yes.
And I can understand one of the toes because he's putting it in Gil's, like it's in like Love's memory box or whatever of whatever. It's got Gil's license and other shit. I don't understand why he had to chop off 2 of his toes to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish. Like you only needed 1 toe for his DNA. You only needed 1 toe to put in that cake or pie or whatever it was. Why did he chop off 2 of his toes? I still don't understand it.
Maybe just like to cover his tracks just in case. Like maybe,
Just make it excessive.
what if 1 toe disintegrates and that's it? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like maybe, and I think, there was the whole baking thing he wanted to tie in. So it's like, all right, one of it is, the memory box of like I'm keeping mementos of all these things, right?
Yeah.
The other is like I'm literally gonna bake something and have my love's like body part in it. I don't know. Maybe I think it was probably just in case one
Yeah.
didn't work out. But that's a good question. That's something that's worth the research because
I've obviously
that
thought
scene
about
was
this.
brutal too. I
Oh
was like,
God, yeah.
oh
I didn't watch it. I turned my head. So did Melanie.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I have always been a 1 toe type of guy. Like if I ever had to chop something off, it would be like the pinky toe
The
because I
pinky
feel
toe.
like you'd still have pretty good balance. But the
Yeah.
2 toes is pretty risky to me. And you can
Yeah.
see he's walking with a limp when he's in Paris at the end, which now I have no idea. I mean, I guess
Getting
he's
in
going to spend
dangerous
the
territory.
season. Yeah, he's international now, which we questioned how did he get out of the country? But
Yeah. Well,
we is he gonna is this gonna be like Mario's missing, but it's like Marianne's missing? Like he's just gonna search for her the entire season, or like
I
I'm
know I
curious
don't
what
like that. I hope he starts new, but I guess not. I don't know. It's he and I think that's what set the tone of how awesome this season was going to be. Where the cliffhanger of last season
Yeah,
was he saw Natalie and was like,
yeah.
okay,
We thought the whole season was gonna be about
this
that.
is my next like Beck. This is my next stalking victim. And then boom, love kills her in the first episode. You're like, oh, what are they gonna do? This is crazy.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I think he'll probably find her in the first episode, and
I
then
think it'll be early too.
yeah, I think it'll be early because they can't really make that long. I feel like they
Yeah,
need to like
are you gonna be fatigued now? Like I found myself this season getting a little fatigued now with Joe's game. Like I'm like, all right, you obsess on people. I don't relate to that. I was never really like that after like 10th grade with women, where I was like obsessed with them.
sure.
And now he's done this now 3 times. And we know like the kind of funny thing is that we know he's never going to find happiness. Like he's
Yeah,
always like attaching himself to a new goal, basically, like kind of like a drug addict. Like he's always just kind of like finding this new thing that he has to kind of accomplish. And he's never going to do it. But I'm getting a little tired of that. It's the same problem I have with reality shows. I'm getting a little tired of the same thing over and over
Yeah,
again, even though they dress it
sure.
up differently. Are you experiencing that, or are you still into like that
I
nucleus?
mean, this season added so many new elements that
Yeah,
it kind of rejuvenated my interest in intrigue, but
yeah,
I will say that, I turned to Jess like right after the finale had happened. I was like, I really wish that that was the series finale, because at this point it's like, what else could they do? Like, him and his kids start killing. He joins a cult of stalker killers, like a librarians anonymous. We stalk and kill people. Like, I'm just in my head, like, what else could they do? Like Dexter, the same thing. It's like, what else can you do? Luckily, John Lithgow, being a villain later on, was like, oh my god, he's the best villain of the series in a later season. But like, usually your sweet spot is like seasons 2 and 3 of shows,
yeah.
and
I was gonna
after
say,
that, it's like you really have to really scratch your head for something that is monotonous like this, or even like a CSI where it's like there's a new case every day, but like, how does the plot advance? It's
yeah.
that's so to answer your question, I am not experiencing that fatigue yet. I'm worried that it'll happen almost immediately in season 4.
Yeah, so they say Netflix magic sweet spots 4 seasons and network TV 6 seasons. Like those are kind of like the
Yeah, that's fair.
golden timelines. But I agree with you. First of all, I agree with you. This was the best season. I think pound for pound, from episode one, I was hooked. I loved all. There were a lot of different plot lines this season. Um, Everything was fairly reasonable as far as how it played out. Like how,
Yeah,
that's a big pet peeve of mine with a lot of murder stuff too, is like, is it realistic people would react this way or do this or do that? And they did. I thought it tied the season together nicely in the last episode as far as everyone's outcomes. They could have ended it here though. I agree with you, because we established, like, Joe gave having a normal life and giving up killing a shot and living the suburban husband father thing, and it failed greatly. It
right,
literally went up in flames.
right.
And then he gave away his only motivation to not kind of be that guy. So it could have very well ended here, and I would have been perfectly fine. And it would have been a lot like Silence of the Lambs. Like, just disappears into Europe, we never see him again. But
Yeah, that's fair. That's
yeah,
fair.
but
Better
obviously
than.
it's not ending that way. So
Did you
now
watch Dexter, by the way?
I didn't know. It's like the shock of the
Oh,
everyone
okay.
asks me this. It was Breaking Bad before that. Those are the two things everyone's like, have you ever seen it? And Breaking Bad, I have since seen, but yeah, I've never seen Dexter. Like, not even a second of it.
Dexter can't touch Breaking Bad, but I will stop future things from what I was about to say. But Dexter, I think is in a similar territory of like, you risk running into a finale of the series, and it's just this was not giving it away, but people are very not pleased. They were not pleased with the finale of Dexter,
That I
and
know.
you risk that because the finales you can. Dark is a great example. If people haven't watched Dark, it's like an international multiverse time travel sci-fi show on Netflix. It's 3 seasons, I think like 20 something episodes. They said this is our episode number 1 and this is our last episode, and we're not making more seasons just to do it. Like, this is how we're going to finish it. And so, like, on that note, I think some shows get it and they're like, here's how we're going to do it. And that's how we're going to end it. And everyone's like, every episode is great. Loved it. Perfect. See you later. Done. And I think that, the what you has going for it is it's at least loosely based off the book that's being written at like simultaneously. It's kind of like Game of Thrones, like the books are being written simultaneously. And I
Yeah.
think, the writer is like up to like season 2. There are some differences, like Love and him weren't together and stuff like that, but so there could be new source material.
Hmm.
I just think like it's almost like go out on top. Like,
Yeah.
you had this baller season, like the love interest is great with Love, and then the other librarian girl is like, she was okay, but like I didn't like Beck. I thought Beck was like, whatever, you just threw someone in there to be stalked. Like, I thought her character was kind of bad.
I thought it was funny that and by the way, I'm just seeing, we actually have been getting comments. I was in like some weird vortex and
Oh,
wasn't seeing them. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, Melanie, for clarifying it was Sherry. And yes, Dan, I have thought about if I had to chop off a body part, what that would look like. Um, Melanie says that she thinks it'll end with him killing his mom. Which I
Ooh.
definitely think that plot line is trending that way. Like we're starting to learn a little bit more about what became of him and his mom, and obviously he reconnects with her after he's in the boys' home or whatever you want to call it. So I could totally see that. Um, I
Here
guess
you go.
they kind of cut out Love's mom. I think they tied the knot on that basically, but she gave up custody, so she no longer really has a reason to be in the show. So I don't think we'll explore that.
Yeah, I think she's done. I
Yeah,
think
it's
she's
really
done.
like Joe and his mom and Marianne are the three things that are still kind of that weren't blown up this season. But yeah, so I mean, I do wonder about that, I guess. But it
I
was
like
funny in
the
this episode, he said Gwen, Beck was a child, and that was exactly
yes.
how yeah, like I felt that way. Like I was not really that into her character either. She was kind of annoying, and she had sex with the curtains open or whatever, like all of the time, which was so weird to me. You're in the middle of New York City, and she never closed her blinds when she'd have sex with the guys. And as we know in that season, she did it constantly. Drove me
Yeah, they
nuts.
tried to make her like a deviant. I don't know. I can't look at her the same because so fun fact, she played Anna from Frozen on Once Upon a Time, which was a Disney
Really?
like Disney series on like all the fairy tale characters, and she
That's
played Anna,
hilarious.
and I was like, that blew my mind. But I just yeah, I could. You're right. Like stuff like that was kind of weird and didn't make sense. But going back to what my sister said, I think that's actually pretty cool. Either he goes to go kill his mom or his brother goes to hunt him down, his like half brother. So like they show that
Yeah.
scene. So something they're gonna tie in the family somehow, or even
Right.
I don't. Did they close the book on what happened with the nurse
Fiona.
or the was she? Yeah, the nurse. Yeah, Fiona. Did she die or was she?
They
Did they just kind of leave it
implied
out there?
they kind of implied that they were the kids were suspicious she's dead, and the official word was she moved to Ohio. So maybe that was planting
Hmm.
the seed for Joe, like how he can cover murders. I don't know, but they didn't.
Oh, they should have had him go to Ohio and done like a
Yeah, I mean,
snowy season,
we
a
know nothing
snowy
really
killing
about his
season.
teenage years or when he leaves the home or any of that. So I mean, there's a lot of skin on the bone there. It's just I don't know if it'll be interesting, and I don't know if they'll explore it that way. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's 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 an interesting show, and Beck. I had issues with her character, but I still think that, and season two kind of mixes together with me, and I know it ended with meeting love, but this is what confuses me. Season two, um, we had like a rich Asian girl who he kills, who I can't remember her name. She had a really obnoxious name. I can't remember what it was though. But
I'm
who
gonna
was
look
his love
that up.
interest? Was
It was
she
love.
it
It was
it
love.
was well, it was Beck though, was that was her best friend, right? Beck's best friend. It wasn't
So in
love. That's when he goes to California.
season two, it was love was like the whole the whole season, and then his ex
Oh yeah,
can't
Candace.
Candace comes back and she dates 40,
Yeah.
and then he winds up actually I think finally killing her, or love does. I
Okay.
can't remember how she
Yeah,
dies,
that whole
but love
thing.
is I mean he goes into the grocery store bakery and sees her, and he does like the whole season is him like dating love.
Okay. Maybe it's the end of
And
season one I'm thinking of then when
but like honestly outside of Beck, I have not been convinced. I don't know if this is Penn Badgley's fault. I have not been convinced he's like really into the person.
yeah.
Like even Love in season two, and then this season with the librarian, which I can't think of her name. I feel bad, but like it just doesn't seem like he's really into them. But with Beck, I was like, okay, that actor is making it seem like he's super into this person.
Yeah, Joe's
Um,
interesting because like you said, he's not a sociopath. He does have
yeah,
empathy, whereas
right.
the actual sociopath here was love. Every
Yes,
relationship she has was to manipulate or to protect herself or
right.
someone, I mean, you can argue, I guess, that Henry might have been like she had empathy for her child, but I don't even know if that was necessarily true because she was ready to kill his father. So
I thought she was gonna do something bad to the child. I was like,
I
please
did
don't go
too.
that
I thought
route.
she was going to
Please
kill
don't
him
go
when
that
she
route.
went off
Yeah,
scene.
yeah.
She has no relationship with her family now.
Well, she
So,
I
well,
think
she's
she
dead
does. I think her empathy is solely
for herself.
like child. Well, I think there's an element of like the victim child because she's prepared to kill the librarian until her daughter walks in. What I really liked
Good
about
point.
this season is people got away,
Yeah.
which was crazy, right? Like Carrie and Sherry got away, and then like hilariously, they're like doing TED talks like
Yeah.
about their,
Yeah. They landed on their
these
feet, definitely.
escaping like Jigsaw. And so it was and that was great. And that was going back real quick to what we talked about earlier. Like even Sherry admits that like her style is all a fraud because
Right.
it'll allow her to fit in to a
Right.
world, which I thought was really cool. Like, it was sick, but yeah, like you had people get away, which doesn't happen. And Love, which I thought like at that point, Love was like off the rocks. So I was like, she's gonna kill everyone, the kid, like
Yeah. Yeah.
the mom, like, and she didn't. And I was like, wow. And then, oh yeah, the teenager love interest of Love, he survives, which was cool. And they didn't even
Well, right.
kill the neighbor guy. Like a lot of people got away. And so that's probably why Joe has to go to internationally. By the way, this would not be a podcast if we didn't mention how much Joe reminds a lot of people of John Mayer. That they actually infused a joke in season 2, which was really hilarious. That they even called it out. But
Yeah. He does. And while we're on lookalikes, Scott Speedman is the actor who plays Matthew, the next door neighbor, the father. Um, he to me looks so much like he could be brothers with Highlander from
oh, okay.
yeah.
I was going
Uh,
Thomas Jane, but yeah, I could see that.
yeah. I did the whole time I'm watching that actor, and I'm just like, he reminds me so much of someone. And he's
Yeah,
not a perfect fit, but he looks like they could be related. And I liked that character too. Like he really got a raw end of the deal because
he
he
did.
was kind of made out to be like he didn't even care about Natalie, and she made him out to be that way too. But I mean, this
She
man
just wanted to
clearly
cheat on
loved
him.
her,
Yeah.
like loved her deeply to be
Oh my
this torn
gosh.
up
Yeah.
about it. And he never got the closure that I mean, I guess he might have gotten the closure now because like he thinks that Joe or Love killed her, and
Well, it
they're
seems
both
like he
presumably
did.
dead. Yeah,
He's finally being the dad that what's the kid's name?
it's Noah, right?
Noah deserves. Like, like
Yeah,
he was like just a dick to every, I mean, and that was a little hidden theme too, like the workaholic tech startup, software guy, who's sacrificing his family for his company, but
yeah.
then like comes around to being, super awesome. And he's like great. He's a great guy. I mean, it sucks for him because yeah, he got cheated on and then he lost his
It,
wife and like his
it's
neighbors are
Theo, by
crazy
the
and
way.
his
We were way off with Noah. Thank
oh
you,
Neil.
thank you,
It was
Crystal.
was it
Yeah,
an N word at least? Okay, that's
it's
good. Yeah, it's
yeah.
an N.
I'm not even close. No,
All right, an N name. Okay.
yeah, four
Neil.
letters. So we got that part right, but it did not
There you
start
go.
with an N.
No. Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
But oh, he was in Underworld. Wow. I didn't know
Yeah. Which, by
that's
the way,
because I
Crystal also said she thinks Love is alive.
whoa.
A season from her perspective would have been nice. She enjoyed her chaos. I don't agree with the alive part only because I have no idea how that could possibly happen without
Does he
maybe
burn the house
including.
down with her in it?
Yeah, and it's like already like pretty considerably on fire when he walks out. But to be fair to Crystal, the only thing we see after that is the neighbors looking at, presumably the house burning down. So we don't know that she didn't leave, but I think whatever he gave her, like she wasn't prepared for, so there's no way she had an antidote for her, so she was just in there paralyzed, and then the house burned
Oh my
down.
god, it'd be so sick if like it's like the
They
end of
like met
season
up again.
season 4 and like she pops up behind him and like like while he's like he's about to like walk the aisle to his bride, and then like she pops up when he's like in like the dressing room or something, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that would be epic.
that would be great, except that would be way too much dumpster Walking Dead for me when
Oh sure.
when Glenn like magically doesn't die under the while there's like 1,000 zombies around. Like that'd be too
Yeah,
cheap for me.
that's fair.
But it would
That's
be
fair.
cool in a vacuum. Yeah.
Real quick on lookalikes. Well, we're on the topic of
Yep.
love. So we
Yeah.
got
You're
John
welcome.
Mayer and Joe. We got uh um Thomas Jane and Highlander for the neighbor.
Yeah.
And then love to me, like looks like Kat Denning and Liv Tyler. Like I see her and I'm like, oh my God, it's Kat Denning.
That's a good one. Yeah, she's got
I
a lot
like
of cat in
so much that I Googled, like, is this her sister? And
her.
like,
Like these features, I don't think I've ever seen more expressive and prominent. She has like very prominent mouth,
she
not
has
in like a
horse
big.
teeth. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
it's
got
not like
big
a
teeth.
big or an ugly mouth. It's just these are
No.
very expressive, and I can't even do like I can't even make this move, and she has like
Yeah.
lines. It's yeah, that is caught up on that.
She
One
looked a
job I
lot better
like.
this season.
She did. She
She
got a
looked like,
makeover once she I think was supposed to be happy.
yeah, it
Um,
will also do the whole like I'm fitting into the
yeah,
Californian ways.
yeah, right, exactly. Crystal also adds, yeah, Candace, we thought was dead. She came back. So I mean, there's
Right.
precedent for it. Crystal, I will give you a +1 if that happens. I don't think it's gonna happen, but I'll be impressed with you if it does. Um, yeah, so it's those are my takeaways. It was a really good season. I'm with
Oh,
you.
oh, it's Theo. I thought you said Neil.
No, no,
It's Theo.
yeah, like we didn't get the N word right at all.
Oh my
It's Theo.
God.
It's not Noah, and it's not
Neo, like the Matrix.
yeah.
No, Theo. Okay.
Which his face.
It says Melanie Schwartz is watching with you, which is just tripping my mind out. Looking at the comments, by the way.
Yeah,
Annoying.
she's here.
Yeah.
Yeah, which he
Uh
also had a really weird face to me. Very
yeah.
very prominent everywhere. But he did a
All
great
right.
job, I thought, for his age and everything else.
Do we before we shift to Squid Games, do you have any last comments on you or
I would like
questions?
there to be only one more season.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't want this to go on more because like I'm a little fatigued. Maybe they can change some stuff
So you
about it.
are. Okay.
I'm a little bit. I'm not like I'm not going to watch season 4. I loved the season. Like I said, I thought it was the best. Um, but I don't need to go down this path 2 more times where he's just obsessed with some girl and like bad shit happens, people die. Like I get it. I wish there'd be a different spin on it this season. Maybe there will be because, like you said, this season was distinctly different from the first two.
Yeah.
It's just there was a little too much of that. I think the Marianne thing is really what kind of annoyed me. Is that I feel like there was a way he could have gotten out of this marriage and situation without obsessing on another woman. Like I don't know what it would have been, but that's the part that annoyed me. And before we go to you, Crystal said she read the actor for Theo auditioned for Joe season 1 and 40 in season 2 before he got Noah/Theo in season 3.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
good for that actor, man. That is
Yeah,
really hanging in there.
he's in the new Halloween movies.
Yeah, he's a
Uh
tall dude too. How tall is someone?
he
Tell me
looks like
how.
Adam Driver. He could have played Kylo Ren.
I'm gonna look up how he's got to
He
be like
gets
at least 6'3".
he has a brutal death in the most recent Halloween movie.
That's cool.
Brutal. Oh, real quick before we move on from you,
Yeah,
how in the blue hell did they get their finances? Was the mother fronting the money? Like I because Joe wasn't working for all I know, and Love wasn't either until the bakery. But like, right? Is it assumed that the mother was paying their rent and stuff? Or
I thought about this as a little Friends vibey to me, where I'm like, you shouldn't be in this situation. Like, you should know. I think what happened was her family definitely fronted like the money for their house and like settled
okay,
them into the suburbs and everything. They probably paid for the house in cash before like shit started to hit the fan for them because
sure,
they made a comment about that at one season, like how her family like settled her into the suburbs because remember they had to make her kind of disappear from the other location. So
yeah,
and that was before the divorce like started siphoning all the money. So I think that's how. But then how they were like sustaining their life, yeah, it was a little weird because Joe worked as a librarian. He couldn't have made more than I'm sure in California it's like 50,000 a year, but he couldn't have made more than like a slightly below average salary there. And yeah, she had the bakery, which I guess became semi-successful because she seemed pretty talented, but it didn't happen. Like, first of all, they had to pay for the bakery, which her family did not do. That was
yeah. The
and
amount of coming out
yeah,
went
so
to the
I'm sure they
vineyard.
were losing money on that deal so quickly into that transaction. And she signed a 3-year lease. So like I don't know. I don't know where all that money was coming from after they were settled in, but maybe when you don't have like any bills you
Yeah,
can sustain that on the librarian salary and however much they're making at the bakery.
let's just give them the cinema suspend your disbelief pass on they're somehow able to afford their lifestyle. as
By
we
the way,
switch
to
over
finish,
to, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, the bakery was empty like 90% of the time. She's putting zombies down
Yeah,
the shit. Yeah, so that's a good point, Crystal. Um, Dylan Arnold plays Theo. He's listed 6 feet, and unless everyone on that show is 5'2", I just do not believe that at all. Because
6 feet, that's it?
there's no way
No
he was
way.
towering over Love, and I think she's 5'3", so she's not like, I mean, she's short, but she's not like crazy short. I don't know. Things like this are what I look
I
at.
mean,
Like,
Carrie looks like he's Thor, like
yeah,
7 feet tall. I don't think
yeah,
I
he
saw.
looks like he's 6'5", so maybe my whole height perspective's off. But anyway, we can transition over
Oddly.
to Squid Game here. And
Yeah,
so how do you, I guess I can introduce this one.
go for it, man.
Squid Game, a South Korean show, as Jake mentioned at the beginning of the hour. It's a show where basically it's Korean people play kids games for money, except the twist is that all of them die except for the person who actually wins all the money, and then they become like a several billionaire over and over again. Ben Badgley, 5'9". He seems more than 3 inches tall. Anyway, so that's kind of the plot twist. It's a bunch of people hard on their luck financially or in debt to people decide voluntarily to play these games. They think that they're basically playing these kids' games to win money, and the reality is that they're actually playing for their lives, and the winner is going to win all of the money. And by the way, they're doing it for like rich white people who are also apparently all gay. That was kind of my takeaway from that. So rich gay
That's just,
white
I think that's
people,
just what Koreans think of us. Like the richer and
yeah,
whiter we are, the
like rich
gayer we
old
are.
gay white people were
Yeah.
basically having Koreans killed for their own
The
entertainment.
more we progress in age and the more richer we get, the whiter we get, the
Yeah,
gayer we
I,
get as
I
well. Yeah.
yeah, I presume they were rich white old gay Republicans. I don't have proof of
Yeah.
that, but that's kind of what the impression I got of Americans in Squid Game.
They
We'll
would
start.
employ a Joe Goldberg,
we'll
to,
we'll start with the first controversy of this show, which is that, and I think we had opposite experiences here. It was dubbed or subtitles. Now, in my household,
Hmm.
subtitles are not allowed because, as my wife puts it, she doesn't want to read a book while she's watching TV. So I'm okay with
Fair.
subtitles. Life is Beautiful is one of my favorite movies ever. That entire movie is subtitles. She doesn't do it. We don't do it. So we watch the dub version. Now, Jake, for me and my family, I hate dubbing. So,
Well, the voices are bad, that it can make it
and this
really
was
bad.
particularly bad dubbing, but
The
I
only
hate,
time dubbing is good is Most Extreme Challenge.
yeah,
That's when
because they're
dubbing is
making,
good.
yes, they're making fun of it, and it's hilarious
Yes.
because they're saying things that are very clearly not being said. This was, if you're trying to match up what they're saying, it's just awful. And
Yeah.
as a broadcast journalism major who did media production like that, I can't get past that either. But
Oh
so
God.
that's the first controversy. You, as
You'll
I understand,
learn, tell
though,
Melanie she'll
yeah.
learn to love subtitles, because as a parent, you don't really get the choice to watch your shows all the time. So
Yeah, we
I've
may have
kind
to
of,
learn that
it's
soon.
been a thing of mine. Like literally, if you go in our house and you've been there, like every TV has subtitles automatically on everything. Like, because we're just used to like the baby's sleeping. We want to watch 90 Day Fiance, put the subtitles on.
Yeah,
Get it on.
which you
Like,
did. I'm
so
correct, right? You watched this with subtitles.
I did. Yeah. Because, well, also too. So depending on the show, if also Jess doesn't watch the show, then I'm like, okay, this is going to be a 10 o'clock at night. Like once everyone's passed out, Jake's going to watch on his phone,
Yeah,
because like that's the only time I can do it. So, I'll just have it on my phone with subtitles on, for the most part. So
yeah.
I don't mind it, but I get it. I totally get why people would hate that for sure.
By the way, Fami points out it's not just Korean people, I guess, who think that white people are all old, gay, rich, and presumably Republican.
We'll just go watch a Bond movie and look at how they view Americans,
Yeah, which I
right?
did like last week. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But so anyway, that was the first thing. Now I heard that subtitles dramatically changed, and I don't know how we can compare this because we watched two separate things. Dramatically changed like the flow of that show. So I guess we can
Uh,
compare that as we go through here. But
maybe if we have different takes, yeah. I'm curious now.
I have to say with Squid Game,
Yes.
two major problems right off the bat for me.
Oof.
One is that the first 10 minutes I watched, I was like, because I already knew part of the plot, people die. So I was like, this is gonna be like Hunger Games once I found out the dude was poor. And the other part of me was like, I was like, this is gonna be like Saw.
Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah. It's
And it
good.
ended
It's
up
good
being
combo.
exactly both of those things combined, which someone argued with me once. They're like, well, this is what really happened in Hunger Games. So I'm like, no, it's the exact same freaking thing.
No.
People fought for their lives because they were poor, and the person orchestrating all of it was dying, and he was doing it to try and make the world a better place in his weird perverse way and improve the people who were competing, or they die. That's exactly what Saw is. That's exactly what Hunger Games is. That was my first problem, and I figured that out very early, and I was upset that I was wrong, that I was right. I was hoping that I just like there'd be some twist that would take me off that path. The other
Sure.
thing is that was maybe the worst first episode of anything I've ever watched in my entire life.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really?
hated it. Hated the first
Whoa.
episode until the last 7 or so minutes, and that's the only reason. That, and because I was like, "There's no way." Like everyone by that point, because I was a little late to the show, everyone by that point was talking about how great the show was. It was like it had already hit social media phenomenon status. I watched the first episode. Melanie and I are like cracking up the first half of that episode because the dubbing's so bad. His
Oh, the
acting is
dubbing.
so
Yeah.
bad. It's so like overly like just stereotypical Asian
That's so
bad.
funny because I thought because of that, I was like, he's such a good actor.
No,
I
we
was
were
watching
watching
it
this. We're
going,
like,
oh
this
my
guy
God, his acting
sucks.
ability is amazing. That's so funny. As I
No,
turned to Jess, I'm like, this dude's an incredible actor.
we
Which
watched
now,
that and
wait,
we were
Jess
like,
did watch Squid Games with me. I don't know why I thought she did. We did watch
maybe
together.
part of it.
Yeah.
We watched that and we were like, this guy like and really I didn't like him at any point in the entire, like he was one of my least favorite characters the entire time. I
Wow.
did end up liking other characters, but he was not one of them. But that first episode, I was like, I don't get it, and this is really boring. And then like the last like 7 or so minutes, I forget what the twist was, but I was like, all right, like at least there's going to be some action soon. And really, episodes 2 and 3, I still wasn't like, this is great. It wasn't until episode 4 that I was like, all right, this is good. And then I enjoyed it after that until the end when I was like, all right, it's exactly what I thought it was. What did
That's
you
so
think?
interesting.
Obviously, you felt very differently.
Well, I will say this. So, like, I am someone who watches some pretty gross gore horror movies, and shamelessly, I admit that. And so, I saw Battle Royale back in 2000. Well, I didn't see it back in 2000, but that movie came out in 2000, and that basically was pre Hunger Games and pre all this, like, oh, there's massive, death by elimination style movies that came out. The Hunt came out recently, by the way, and this has Kevin from This Is Us in it. He dies like quickly though.
Damn.
But anyway, so they to me, like, Battle Royale was like the beginning of this, and that was about a bunch of eighth graders who get kidnapped and they got to basically fight to the death to survive until one's left. Which, by the way, Vic Romano from MXC, which we already referenced,
Yeah,
he's in that movie, which is really bizarre to go
that
from
is
watching
really
MXC to
bizarre.
watching that dude, Takashi
I'm
Kitano.
still trying to
Um,
process that Kevin from This Is Us dies in something.
yeah, oh yeah, and it's brutal. That movie was kind of good though. Came out, I think it was 2020 that came out.
Hmm.
But anyway, so I saw the first episode and I was like, wow, this is interesting because they're like not just showing, not just picking people down in their luck, but they're actually like really going deep into like this dude and saying like, look how bad he has it. Like he puts together a few dollars, he goes to the horse track, which to me was cool because it's all in my family. Like my in-laws love horse racing, and now I do too. So like that was kind of cool to watch that. Um, and so he like wins the money, and you're like, oh, thank God he won the money. And then he gets robbed by that girl who winds up being in the game. And then,
Yeah.
obviously other stuff happens too. And his poor, his kid, he's just trying to be a good dad, but he can't. And he's losing the clutches around his kid and failing and stuff. And so it's so funny you say that because I was watching I Turner Chess. I'm like, this guy's a really good actor. Like
Yeah, no.
he is like executing these emotions, like his mannerisms, his facial reactions, and you're not the only person that said he's bad. So
Yeah.
My mom who's watching it now is like, I hate the acting in it. But yeah, my mom's watching Squid Games, by the way. So I the first episode, red light, green light, that was awesome. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like they're doing that, and I'm like, okay. I hated that they left. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, you got
Yeah.
my attention. You're gonna leave it, but that wound up being crucial to a lot of the elements in the show for them to leave and come back. And eventually, spoiler alert, you find out the old man is the guy running it, and so he's the last one to cast his vote. So you knew on purpose they wanted people to leave because they really wanted people to have that motivation of, I need money so desperately.
Yeah.
I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get
Yeah.
that money. So the game is played correctly, which goes into the overall theme. That is, there are no good people, right? Like that's the theme. And that's the ending scene. The old man before he dies is like, no, there's no good people. You'll see, like, no one's going to come by and help that homeless person.
Right.
And the main character is like, no, there are good people. Someone will come. And sure enough,
it was a very Batman Joker argument.
Yes, 100%. And there was elements of that, like the hospital scene. Like it just they did some tie-ins like that. But I was hooked by the first episode. I didn't like. I was really excited on like the kid game aspect of it, and I didn't like the games they picked later on. I think except for like the hopscotch, like Rainbow Road from Mario Kart level game, that I liked. Tug of War was okay, but like
Tug of War,
honeycombs and like
the honeycombs was stupid,
marbles, and I was like, come on,
was stupid too.
You could have picked some really cool kid games.
The Tug of War. The Tug of War episode, I was probably the most obnoxious when I was watching it because I'm watching it with Melanie and I'm like, nodding my head, like talking to myself as we're watching it, because one of my proudest moments.
Oh boy.
Which is so stupid. One of my proudest moments athletically.
Oh, okay.
Is that when I was in 6th grade, I was in Miss Totero's class. And you guys had field day, right? I assume that's
Oh yeah.
So we have field day, right? And the moderate class as far as size and whatnot. And we didn't do particularly well at field day. We didn't even place. But at the end of every field day is a tug of war with the entire 6th grade. Yes. Every class faces off. Yeah. So she didn't come up with the idea. We came up with the idea ourselves. We were like, hey, we should have someone who is not one of the stronger guys, but is like the strongest girl be the anchor. And we happen to have Morgan in our class, who was just this enormous black girl and strong as hell. She was our anchor. We tied the rope around like her waist. Mm-hmm. And then we alternated the strength and the sides of the rope. These are all things we came up with. And we start going through and we're pretty evenly matched with everyone to start winning. Then we get to Mr. Buck's class in the championship. And Mr. Buck's class is like, all these dudes are going to become wrestlers or like basketball players. It's well known in 6th grade in West Windsor, New Jersey. This is the enormous class and mostly guys.
Yeah.
And beat them. And it was like one of those epic tug of wars too, where we were like, it was exactly like in the show. We're losing. And then my teacher, I still have this image in my head, is running, cheering us on, running up and down the line, cheering us on the entire time because the tide started to turn and Morgan just would not let us lose. Like she's the greatest anchor ever. We're seriously bent over just like in the show and we eventually win. And that was like the biggest upset I could think of for a very long time. And I'm telling Melanie like my secrets, like I won an Olympics over this tug of war as we're watching that episode. And sure enough, they're going through it. They're like, yeah, this is what you do. And I'm like, I knew that. Like I have won a tug of war before. That was very high stakes. And that was, so I was very obnoxious for tug of war. So I was glad that was one of them because that was fun for me.
Yeah, sure. That's I mean, everyone's got a, tug of war is a very, just like red light. I thought the red light, green light was the most creative. And that was the best one. They blew their load on the first game. Because I was like, wow, you're coming out with that. Like it's going to be hard to top that. The hopscotch was innovative because it added the element of like, you're just going to shove like someone over or keep going.
Right. I thought they should have done red light, green light when everyone returned. And that would have really been demoralizing. Like you actively decided to come back and okay, we're going to knock out like half of you in one game.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
um,
Yeah.
which we had a little problem with the numbers. It seemed like it seemed like there were 25 people left after red light, green light, and apparently there weren't.
Well, because there was
There was
there
like
was close to
101.
500 people, so that's a lot of deaths. I
Yeah,
think they got down to 256 or something after that because
right.
they
Yeah,
needed. So here's a question for you. Now, if you think about it, old man befriends Sung Ji Hoon very, very early on.
yep.
He's on his tug of war team. So he comes up with the strategy that gets them to win that. Well, eventually Cho Sang Woo does, but like he has a strategy for them winning,
Yep.
right? And he's in the marbles. So my question to you is, do you believe the old man picked Sung Ji Hoon to win? Like out the
Like
gates.
groomed him.
Yeah, like was he purposely doing certain things to get him to either be in the end or to win, or is it just random that he got there?
I think that there's a reason Old Man inserted himself into the games.
Yeah,
Um, and I think potentially one of the reasons was that he was all about evaluating people and like their moral code and whatnot. So do I think that maybe he could have pushed the odds a little in someone's favor? Sure.
yeah.
Uh, did he specifically tab that guy and was like, I'm going to be his guardian angel and have him win? No, I don't think so. But yeah, I
Okay.
mean, maybe he bailed him out a couple times throughout. And there are a lot of Easter eggs and stuff like that in this show. Like when Old Man's not gassed when he gets into the car. That's how we know he was involved in it. He's
That's a good
number
point.
one. That's how we know that he's
Yep,
special.
number one. Yep.
I picked this up very late into the show, but the masks had their ranking was either the square or the circle or whatever, like a PlayStation controller. The guys running the show.
Thank you, because I was
Yeah.
curious about that. The
Yep.
PlayStation controller. I thought the
Yeah.
same
I
thing. So
started picking up on that. I was like, this has to be like some sort of rankings. And then it looked consistent. Then I looked it up and confirmed that that was true. So there's precedent. I guess what I'm saying is that he was involved in it for a reason. There was
okay.
things in the show that they dropped that led to other stuff. So yeah, I think that's totally plausible.
Well, I didn't really think about it. So honestly, we were talking, and I'm like, wait a second. Like he did all these things
Yeah.
with Sung Ji Hoon the whole time. So I'm like,
He probably saw
and
his
even the part
kindness.
where they were partners in the marbles, like he's like, you go find your partner. I wonder if in his head he knew he was going to come back to him like that. I'm like thinking about it now,
Could
and
have
I'm
been
like,
testing him too. I mean,
yeah,
I mean, you think about their relationship, right? Like he came back, he included
huh,
the old man, even though he was a weak link. He includes him in all these games to try and save his life.
right.
Naturally, if you're running this show, right, and you know everyone is going to die on your watch and you're okay with it because you're trying to find like one good person to change their life for the better, it would make sense. It's going to be the guy who bails you out a lot and like wants to help you. He knew he wasn't going to die, but he saw the kindness in this guy and he knew the other guys were shitbags. He wasn't going to skew it because that would piss off the old gay white people. But I think that he could control some stuff to a degree.
I think I think he was willing to die in the game. Like I think he was like, I think he told his partners, well, actually he told the kid that ran the show, which that whole plot is awesome. We got to get to that. The detective and
Yeah.
his brother, that is awesome. I love that whole twist. Um, but yeah, I do think that like he went into the game very well knowing that he possibly could die. Like obviously he didn't want to, he wanted to win.
Sure.
But I think he knew like, not only do I have this giant tumor in my head, but like I could die at any given moment. And
Well, yeah, like
so
he couldn't control the tug of war ending. Like that, if they
yeah,
die, they die. Same with red light, green light. But the only one really, I guess, was Marbles, right? Because they shot them to death, and that was off screen. We knew he
I
didn't die.
think at that point he was like, all right, he needs to go on. And so that
Yeah,
means I have to die. Which,
right.
by the way, let's talk about marbles for a second.
Yeah. How
There
was
have been TV show deaths that I've watched that I like hold back tears or bawl like a baby.
yeah.
And all these deaths, that was awful. That was like brutal. I mean,
That-
part of it was a little comedic in the beginning, but like he's got a kid. Like, you're just like the ultimate betrayal by that dude. And you're just
Yeah.
like watching it happen. And like when he does the whole like hiding the rocks in it, like you're just like, because I'm sitting there, Jess and I, the whole time, we're like, how are they going to do this? They have to kill these characters, but they're all main characters. And this is the episode. They have to do it. And they
Yep.
did it. They
Yep.
did it still, which was like, go director. Don't cop out. Do it. Commit. And they did
Yep.
it. And it was Ollie's death was rough, especially because he was the one that saved the main character in the red light, green light. Remember he caught
Yes.
him and he's like,
Yes. Yeah. In
yeah,
the very beginning. Yeah. Which great. I mean, great forearm strength to
oh my God.
hold another human being up with one
Yeah,
arm and be frozen. That like I was
probably not realistic.
from a workout standpoint, I was impressed by that. I was like, he
Yeah.
obviously didn't lift that day because I could tell if I had like a sore arm, there's no way I'm doing that after on a lift day. But
No.
it was that was probably the only episode where like I might have come close to tearing. I might have, I don't remember. But
Yeah.
yeah, I liked him. Him and the two Asian girls were my favorite characters.
Both of them?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
the one that died, I was like, thank you.
They
God,
both
get her
died.
out of here. Huh?
They both died.
Oh, sorry. I mean, the one during Marbles that died.
Okay.
I was
Well, she
like,
was the
get
one
her.
I liked less. So yeah,
I liked her in the episode when
yeah.
she started like, I'm gonna sacrifice my life for you because you have much more to go back to.
Well, she was only in
That
like
was
an episode
cool.
or two, right?
Yeah, so they like,
Yeah.
I think they put her in because that character needed a
Right.
side plot, especially for Marbles. She couldn't go in and face, Sung Ji Hoon,
I guess
in that game.
it's more their dynamic I really loved. And I said this too when I was watching it. I think the show needed a friendship like that in that game.
Yeah,
Because that's one of the normal reactions that would come out of it. There's going to be people who save you
sure.
and you try to return the favor. There's going to be people who deceive you. There's going to be people who form alliances. There's going to be people who have sex. We saw all of that.
Oh,
uh, which was
worst sex scene ever.
I was gonna say probably the most disgusting sex scene I've ever seen, and yeah, at least on television. Um, and
Now I
then
get side real quick.
yeah,
Now I understand why Melanie kept asking us to hear the voice for that character because you had it dubbed. Because
yeah,
we put it off mute and we're like, it just sounds like a normal Korean lady. Like, what is she talking about?
she was
So it's the
so
dubbed
annoying.
version that was sounded bad. I got it. Okay.
Yes. Did
Yeah.
you go back and do you know what she sounded like?
Now I need to. No, I didn't. Now I will
Well,
go back
it
and
was that was part of it. Her and the main character. I'm like, I can't like with dubbing. I just can't deal with this.
well, maybe you would have appreciated his acting ability if you had just watched the normal version of him.
Maybe. I'm gonna say no, but maybe. But anyway, so I thought that was the one other element too that you would see in a situation like that is there's gonna be people who just form like a legit friendship and a pact,
Yes.
and someone's gonna die for someone else. And they did it. So I liked that, but I legitimately did like who apparently she's a model, which kind of shocked me. The one who dies third, like the one
Oh, yeah.
who
I can
kills.
see that. I can
Yeah, I
see that.
guess. She was my second favorite character behind Old Man, and then I would say the Pakistani guy after that, and then the other
Yeah.
girl. That was like my
Well, she had a really good. I actually liked. I had like a love-hate relationship with this character, but I thought he was kind of cool. Um,
the bad guy.
I remember his name. Yeah, the guy with the snake tattoo.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I
I was
to
the same
me,
way.
it was a necessary character. It's like this guy will do what it takes, but like every bad guy, he has the little side of him that's like at some times I will be like understanding or scared. I'll be
Yeah,
scared and I'll
he
do
was a
like when they
coward.
were building the fort again for the which was another cool element. Like, let's kill the people. Everyone's gonna attack people while they're sleeping. That was like crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
that
but
was probably
he
the
like,
climax of the show. I would say was that scene.
yeah,
Then you're like,
yeah.
all right, shit's really like real now.
The ending, the double ending, I'll say, because
Mhm.
you have the ending of the game and then you have the actual ending of the show. I hated both. I love the show and I hated the cop out of I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna kill him.
And then
I
he
don't
kills
care about the
himself.
money. I want to vote out of the game. Like I was like, come on, just do it. Take the money.
I
And then he
agree.
doesn't spend a dime. It's like, all right, this guy's supposed to be an altruistic dude now after like
Yeah.
sacrificing so much before. It's just, I don't know, they made it too over the top nice
Well, we assume he
for
paid
him.
off his debtors, though, right?
Apparently he only spent 10,000,
Yeah.
which is like a couple $100 of US. Because like the numbers, that was another thing too. I was like, how much money is that? Okay, it's 40 million. Okay, okay. So I'm like, they're talking in billions, right? So I'm like, what's the conversion there? So I'm like, okay, 40 million is a lot of money. I get it now.
Show me your real
But
money, damn it. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
But yeah, so I didn't like that. And I really didn't like I'm about to finally see my daughter, but for the greater good, I'm going to be the hero and go back now and skip out on her. This poor girl, she just
you
wants
know,
to see her, like, just go to America. Like, come on.
yeah, I
But they
agree
needed to
with
do
you.
that for a season 2, so I get it.
I especially hated the Squid Game. Yeah, obviously we knew that was going to be the last game, but how that played out with the whole rain, and I think it was like it felt like it was like 2 hours that they were just beating each other,
And
and
just surviving, like
yeah, I
they're
mean,
like
you try to
stabbing each
kill
other,
someone
and
for like 2 hours straight, it felt like, and then you pull like a gladiator where you're like, oh, I'm just not gonna
yeah.
kill him. I'm gonna like stick it to the man. Just wasn't realistic to me.
No.
Um, I mean, stabbing yourself in the neck for suicide has got to rank pretty up there as far as shitty ways to commit suicide. But I guess,
Brutal.
yeah,
Brutal.
that
I thought he
takes
was just gonna grab his hand and do it, like take the
right.
main character's hand and kill himself with it. But like thought he was gonna stab him. I was like, oh my god, he's gonna get him. But yeah, it was just, I don't know. It just seemed like they it wasn't rushed, I guess technically, but it still felt rushed to me. Like, okay, now he's all of a sudden like he's gonna die, and he's like, man, I really messed up, and now I'm gonna be the one to die, so you can go on. Like, no, you're a scumbag. You literally killed, Ali, who has a poor kid and has been your servant this whole time.
Yeah, like what
Like,
happened to all of that
easily.
motivation?
Yeah.
He knew he killed the girl too, who didn't deserve. Like, if anyone had a background story there where they should have made it out, it was her, and he killed her in cold blood.
I thought they were going to do that. I was like, that's the way to go. The girl's going to make it out, even though she sucks, but she's going to make it out for her
I
brother.
liked her.
Well, I mean, no, not that she wasn't a bad character. She
Yeah,
was just like, to the main character and others, she just like was really shitty. Like,
yeah,
just
she
not
was.
a good person. She's wrapped around, I guess, this like underground mafia thing. Because she obviously knew they do with the snake tattoo. And so yeah, I was just the ending of it, I was just kind of like, oh, come on. You're like making a whole, it's like it's almost like the movie Inception, the way he's like at the airport and it's like kind of foggy and like he's on the phone and you're like, what's gonna happen? And but what'd you think of the recruiting game?
I did think about the recruiting game, and I don't really. Again, that was. I mean, I guess I understood that dude's really, really good at whatever that game is. That was
Yeah.
my first thought. Like that's some balls to play. I mean, he play. The dude could have been an amateur at that game in a championship somewhere, and he's like, "I'm just going to play you." I guess
Right. Yeah.
obviously he's probably banking on these guys aren't that talented at life because they're all in debt. So I mean, maybe that was.
One would assume they're also down their luck, so they're emotionally just not in a good spot, right?
Yeah, I feel like if that happened in the US, people would be a little more weirded out seeing some dude just get this shit slapped out of him all like for and
Yeah.
I mean they again, that was
Yes.
another thing where it must have taken hours that they played that game. The dude was like bloodied by his slaps by the end of it. And people are just like, yeah, whatever. They're playing the slap game over there. Like, that's okay. So that was my impression of it. I thought I wanted that guy to get like more of a comeuppance. He didn't get any comeuppance. The,
No.
the recruiter like didn't really suffer any consequences, but I guess that was the point. So that
Yeah.
was my issue. It's a weird game, but I guess it served its purpose, right? Because the whole point of it was like you are so worthless. Like I'm just gonna slap the shit out of you and still not give you a dime.
Yep. Yep. Except for the 10K at the end.
Right.
But yeah, that I thought that game was interesting. I didn't really I got it once I started playing it, but obviously I don't know what the Squid Game is, but maybe that a real game?
I don't
It
know.
is, right?
I assume so.
People in South Korea play it. Um,
I
but
question how violent that game can get.
Well, it's pretty much like Prisoner and like Guard, or like like where you basically try to get to some place and some guy's
Yeah.
got to stop you. It's like that, that game. Um, so let's. I know we're probably coming up on a little bit of time left, but the other plot, which was kind of like thrown in as a side plot, but I thought was a really cool twist, was the detective trying to hunt down his brother who was in this game,
Mhm.
a while ago. I think it showed like 2015, I think was the year that his brother's in the game when he was looking through the records. But and then his brother winds up being the
Yeah.
dude with the baller mask, running the show. And he's like, "Oh my God, it's my brother." And the brother's like, "This is my brother." He purposely only shoots him in the shoulder, which they don't show him again, right? Like that was it. He falls
Yeah.
off the cliff. But I was thinking they want to make him alive. So I wonder if he's going to come back in season 2, because they wouldn't have had him just shot in the shoulder and fall off the cliff. If they were killing him, they just would have had him shoot him in the head,
Right.
But that whole what'd you think of that whole plot? I love that. I love the whole like him trying to figure stuff out and sneaking around and
Yeah,
whatnot.
that whole scene was great. Like starting from the like weird sex room and escaping and the chase
Oh yeah, that's
and
right.
like leading to that scene and then the confrontation. Like all of that was really great. And I wanted to know who that guy was. Did we ever figure? This is the other thing I thought about. Maybe I wasn't paying attention, but did we ever figure out the entire? Like, was there anything grandiose about that game besides what it was? Like, what were they do? Were they just incinerating the bodies? Because there's a period of time I was watching it and I'm like, they must be doing like some sort of army training or something. Like, who were the guys running this show? Did they just recruit them for those jobs? Because obviously they were against their will to a
Yeah.
degree.
I think I don't think there was any like ulterior motive from the runners of the game, like the
Yeah,
old man and those guys. But I do believe, like, obviously there was some sideshow act going on so they could make money. They were stealing organs and selling them,
right.
right? Like that was the whole, like, the divers, they would take, they brought the doctor down. I totally forgot about the doctor, by the way.
Yeah,
They brought the doctor down and he would take the organs out before they had to incinerate the bodies. So I think that was just covering up their tracks, like incinerate the
okay.
bodies, because,
I would want that job. Like, let me run the game. I don't want to die. Like, just
yeah,
I'll
right.
like, give me
Yeah,
a
just
gun. That'd be cool. Yeah.
put a triangle on my forehead and
Yeah,
I'll.
like give me my PlayStation controller assignment, and that's it. But
That
yeah, I mean, they
was
were like,
totally Saw though. Like the guy survives the game and then becomes the runner of the game. Like
yes.
that's like totally Saw. Yeah.
And some people like fought me tooth and nail on it. I'm like, this is the exact same premise. Like, it's the exact same premise of the Saw movies. That this guy thinks up this like sick, twisted thing that in reality has like some sort of nobility to it, depending on how you look at it. He's going to participate in the games and he's dying, and that's why he's doing it.
Well, this begs the difference though begs the question. There's a choice involved. He's
Yeah.
not putting a gun to people's heads and saying like there was conversations behind the scenes, like where's contestant 45, like let's try to get him to join the game, but like they gave them the choice,
Yeah, which was that
which
very lost for you? I thought of you when they were allowed to leave and then they all like elected to come back. Did that remind you of Lost when the same thing happens?
we have to go back. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was a ton of like pop culture influences, in my opinion, for that. Like we talked about a few already, but yeah, totally. It's on an island. It's there's a lot of lost feels to that. You have like the Dharma Initiative versus these masked guys with triangles on their forehead, and
yeah,
there's an argument of doing it for the greater good of society or whatever, or giving people a chance at money. um and there's just some sick people at the top controlling things. I mean, that's what it is. But
right.
yeah, no, it was totally Saw. Like anyone who says no is just doesn't understand Saw then, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
absolutely Saw meets Battle Royale or Hunger Games or whatever elimination movie you've watched where they die. um the the overarching element of good versus bad, though, I thought was a really cool spin on it, because this guy this old man, he's saying like, you become bored when you have everything, which is now a knock to like being rich, right?
Hmm.
You get bored. He's like, you get bored. Like
Yeah.
I'm bored. So my friends and I thought of this, this way to be entertained, which is sick. But
Yeah.
it's like I thought that was interesting. Like, you have that like that part of the end where he's just, he doesn't even care. And like, you're like, man, that the old man's so nice. And you do that. And it's like, whoa, the ultimate twist. I
Yeah.
actually called it. We were watching, I think it was like episode. Well, I said as soon as I saw that he was number one, I was like, I think the old man's in on it or something. Like, that's weird. Like, why does he have number one? But then, like further into it, I was like, he's running it, Jess. He is the main guy, and he's
Yeah.
playing his own game because it just like like you said, these Easter eggs just kept popping up in your face, and so, but it was still cool that they went that route. And now we have, and I thought the payoff at the end where the little kid, goes to his childhood friend's mom and is now being cared for by her, and she got the money, and like, that was cool, but
Yeah, what
I don't know.
she like I forget what distracted her, but she just leaves like the presumably hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in the suitcase on in the middle of the street. I'm like, what? That really bothered me.
I think it's assumed she upgraded to a restaurant, but
Yeah.
maybe we'll find out in the
Uh
next season.
yeah. I
What are
mean
they?
my
Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say my other problem, I guess, and this is totally a me problem, I could not keep track of their names. I need
Yeah,
it's
I mean
not
it's
just
hard.
because they're Asian names, but I like need that stuff written so I can see it rather than just hear it over and over again. And there's a lot
Yeah,
of them to keep track of. So that was a problem I had. I don't know. I feel like that's part of like the connecting with a character is when you actually know which one's which. Um,
sure,
yeah,
sure.
but
Yeah, it was easy for the main character for me because they kept saying his full name,
yeah,
so I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I think what I'm worried about is like Squid Games may be a show that's like, do you even bother in making more seasons? Because now it's kind of like Prison Break, where it's like, eventually they got to get out of the prison. Like, what do you
yeah.
do it beyond that point? Because the show is awesome because of the prison interactions, but it's like, are they going to do a Squid Games like where they're doing it again and then the main character shows up and he's like the detective type guy where he's trying to blow it up? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how are they going to make it as enjoyable as this season?
Well,
It's
Wendy just commented she thinks rich people do this shit for real, which
I could
very
see it, Wendy.
very plausible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Fight Club, lesser extent, but and that's not really rich people, but we there's a precedent for this sort of thing that probably exists somewhere, and I'm sure rich people are behind it. But my wonder is if they bring it to another country. Maybe maybe for whatever reason he brings it to another country and spreads it there. But you're right. I was fine with this being one season. I don't think it will be one season, especially because it was so popular. We know how Netflix operates. I'm sure there's going to be a second season. But to your point, I don't know what that consists of. That's just one of the concepts I can see happening is that they bring it to another venue, if you will.
Yeah, they have, well, so there's a lot of anime. So one of the animes, Promise Neverland, which is actually really cool. They do that. Like the first season is like, oh, there's only one of these, and then the future season, you're like, oh my god, no, this is like a part of like there's like a bunch of these that exist and you don't even know about. So like I think with this show, they possibly would do that too. Like, no, there's more games, and they're gonna maybe go internationally to other games now. So real quick on the comments, so Mel asked, why the red hair? And I think that's really just for pure like makeover, like a colorful physical representation of him like changing his life. That I think that's the sole purpose of it,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know, you know. Um and also it's trendy, but and then later on, Corey asks, was there a difference by picking red or blue?
He's talking about the slapping game. I think the cards.
Oh, okay. The card's not the things you hit if you wanted to quit. Okay, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know. Was there a difference?
I don't remember now if you had to. I don't remember the premise of the game. Did you have to predict what it was going to land on, and then you like
Yes. I think
tried
it's
to do
basically
it?
a heads or tails, right?
Yeah. So I don't think the colors mattered. I think you just had to be right. Um,
You enter the game, you enter the matrix if you land on red.
yeah. I don't know if I'm right. That's just how I remember it. But yeah. So
Yeah.
a lot
And
of
then
those.
Melanie later says the people they were supporting red bad behavior though, right? The people in the games I thought were doing bad things, which is why they owed money. Yeah, I mean they're not great people, but I think they tried to, except for like maybe the mafia guy who legitimately was doing bad things. Everyone else, they kind of, I guess, made it seem like they were only doing bad things because they didn't have money and they couldn't get a leg up in life. And that kind of brings it back to like, people who are subjected to crime. Is it their fault or is it their environment's fault? They
Right.
were supporting bad behavior. Right. So like, like I definitely bad behavior for sure, but I think there's actually like there's that element of like we want the audience to kind of empathetically support these like teeny villains.
Yeah.
So
I think it's one of those run of the mill what's right and what's wrong really when there's extreme stakes.
unless
Um,
you're a super existential like the old man and he just believes everybody is bad, and
yeah,
that's the problem. We're all bad, doesn't matter. Might as well have fun in life.
yeah. Whereas the rest of it's more like a Les Miserables take where it's like, you stole a loaf of bread, but your family was starving. Like, how much punishment did you really deserve? It's
Yeah.
like, this is just kind of like that is, yeah, you're poor and you're poor because you made some bad decisions. Do you deserve to die? And are you willing to kill other people? And does that make you a bad person? Like, is it survival or what? So,
Melanie just said maybe next season he'll dye his hair again.
yeah, well, we hope. And I don't think he looked great in red. I think maybe like a purple, maybe next season would be better.
Yeah.
I think
There
she's
could be
right. I
meaning
think
to the hair colors though, like Corey's saying. That's the thing.
there probably is, and I'm only saying that
Yeah.
because A, it's a TV show, and B, it's Asian, and I feel like they
Well,
usually
yeah.
go deeper than we do.
There you go.
So yeah, I
Didn't
don't
want
know.
to say that outright, but yeah.
Yeah, well, hey, that's what look, I'm willing to admit when it's well produced. But yeah, and she said you have to make it flip sides. I think she's actually right about that. I think that was the whole premise with the
Oh, the red and blue
Splat
game.
game. I think you just had to
Yeah,
make it flip over to the opposite color.
you're right.
Yeah,
That's right. That you're
and
correct.
obviously our homeboy was pretty bad at that compared to
He
the
lost like
good looking
they
dude.
probably it insinuated that like they had like 50 turns before he finally won.
That's what I'm saying. It was
Like
a really
that's
long. I mean, his
bad.
face was actually like messed up from getting slapped. Like you have to get slapped a lot of times to
Well,
go
I
beyond red.
I bet you the thing was like weighted or something, so that's why it wouldn't flip. Like
Could
there's
be.
probably something with like the guy that had the game knew, and he was like, eventually they'll get it, but I don't care. The point is to like make them work so hard for it that they'll go through it, to get it, which is kind
Yeah.
of a little foreshadowing of the major game.
Yeah, he had to demoralize them first. Because if you just
Yeah,
win on the first hand, get your 10,000, like that's it. That's the end of the
right,
transaction. But you had to be
exactly,
desperate and like look like an idiot and then get a little bit of money and realize that, hey, like that, because then your brain is like, all right, I can take a little bit of a beating, but if I make some money, like it's worth it. So he's now conditioned them that you're gonna want to like you're okay being a little violent, and that's kind of the premise they go with when they join it until they find out that they're actually going to die.
yeah, yeah,
That's the twist that
yeah,
they don't know. So yeah, I mean, overall, it was fine. I'm not upset. I watched it. I think it's a little overrated compared to the hype it's gotten. And I was a little upset that it was a blatant ripoff of several things that were pretty
yeah, that's fair.
obvious. But overall, it was like I'm glad I watched it. It's fun to talk about, and that's how I felt about it.
I mean, They did a good twist on kind of a lot of different themes. Yeah, heavily influenced for sure, but I think the child game aspect of it was unique and very colorful. One thing that was underrated in the show, which maybe goes back to the red hair, is the cinematography of the show was fantastic.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like the different set designs, the colors, the director and producers knew what they were doing. And I think I may be wrong about this, but I heard that this was actually a concept like 10 or 15 years in the making that they
Yeah. 10
tried to
years
get
ago.
past and they couldn't get it past. And then finally, which is the great thing of, well, sorry, one great thing about COVID is that it gives a lot of these projects that have been kind of on the shelf some life because everyone's at home yearning for like the next big thing, right? And so
Yeah.
that picked some steam and got released. But they did a great job. I mean, the Parasite, which won the Oscar a couple years ago, that was fantastic. So the
Yeah.
Koreans are on a roll with their
They are.
cinema.
I enjoyed that movie very much.
Yeah,
Speaking of they like their twists, but
I do too. I'm a sucker for twists.
yeah, it's definitely my type of thing. It was 10 years in the making, and also the cast did not see the sets before they walked into them. So they were like,
Oh, I love
yeah,
that.
they were
Oh, that's
just as
great.
shocked. I also, if I'm not mistaken, they didn't know what games there were going to be. So those were both surprises.
Yeah.
Yes, they didn't know the games, and they also didn't see the sets. So they would walk on the sets and be like, "Holy shit!" Like they were in Candyland or
I
whatever.
gotta I gotta oddly abruptly run. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
But
I think we were just about done here. So
yeah.
yeah,
So good stuff. And let's do this again soon, huh?
yeah, absolutely. So want to best episode 6. I agree with you, Corey. Yeah, this has been You and Squid Game. Come back and discuss it with us. We'll try and do it next time there's a phenomenon on Netflix and we'll talk about it. But it's just good talking to you, Jake.
Good talking to you too, Vince. All right, we'll see you later.
Have a good one.